What is up, guys? I am back. Today is May 4th, 2024. It is the 8th week of my off-season growth phase, and it is Saturday. So you guys know what that means. It is check-in day. This is going to be my first video in my check-in series. The whole purpose of this series is to condense my training into one upload a week, because I think that it's going to be better if I can go through my training in one session and kind of give you guys my analysis, my high level view of it, rather than breaking it down day by day. I'm still going to be uploading daily training videos. They're just going to be raw footage with some music or something rather than my commentary on the training. Whereas on this day, we're going to have a commentary on the training, but I'm not going to break down every single set that I do like I do on my daily uploads currently. So on this first check-in, I'm also going to kind of go through what my check-in process looks like, what my numbers look like, where I am at in my process, and hopefully that will give you guys over a number of weeks some insight into how I do things, how I would approach things with a client, because I do things with clients very similarly to how they're structured for me. Not identically, because obviously everything is built for the individual, not to a general standard. But, you know, there's a good starting point that I like to apply to most people. So this week, looking at my weight this morning, I was 215.4 pounds fasted. So that is about a 2-pound increase, 2.1 pound increase on the average over last week, which is awesome. That's right on track with where I want to be. Perfect. My glucose, my blood glucose this morning was 93. So that's a little higher than I like it to be. Usually we like to aim for 90 or below. So we'll probably up the basal insulin or the metformin this week. Going to discuss that with my coach, but most likely going to be an insulin increase at this point, not the metformin. Blood pressure today was awesome. 120/78, which is really good because that was a morning blood pressure. And if you're not aware, your blood pressure usually reads a little bit higher in the morning. And that's only on 40 milligrams of telmisartan, which is obviously currently what we have in play. So I have a lot of room to be able to work with that as we continue to escalate PEDs. Things are in a good place there. I'm getting blood work done here on Monday, and then I should hopefully have the results back from that within 1 to 2 weeks. When I get that back, we will be doing a blood work review video so you guys can see what blood work looks like for someone like me and on the stack that I'm on. If you don't know what I'm currently running, then I just did a video for that, which I'm uploading as I record this, kind of doing an overview of my current PED stack, and that will be the same at the time the blood work comes through. We're not going to change anything until after we get those results and see if we can push things up, because we will be pushing PEDs up if the blood work checks out, and it should. We just want to verify. Diet was perfect this week. Did not do an off-plan meal this week. This week was just on plan, nothing off plan whatsoever. In the off season, I usually am a little bit more adherent, just because I don't feel like I need to have a bigger meal or an off-plan meal when my food volume is already high. Usually the time when I'm doing a weekly or bi-weekly off-plan meal is going to be right at the start of an off season where my hunger is very high and we start to reintroduce some food, and at the start of, or I should say the midpoint of a diet or deficit phase, right before we get to like the struggle point. Once we start struggling through and getting to those later phases of a diet, I cut it out entirely because it's just not productive. So it's pretty rare for me to have an off-plan meal that's like crazy. I don't even remember what it was. Maybe it was more than 2 weeks ago. It's been a minute since I had an off-plan meal, but it wasn't anything crazy. I think it might have just been like some chicken wings or something, and fries or something like that. Maybe a burger. I don't even remember, but my meals are pretty basic even when they're off-plan meals. All that being said, nothing real crazy this week that I need to work on. Everything felt good. We've got my back and shoulder day dialed in, which was my biggest concern last week at my check-in. You know, nothing, it just didn't really feel right. We made an exercise swap. We switched out, which you guys will see on this video, we switched out my landmine row for an upper back biased chest supported row, and that felt really good. We've also put Kelso shrugs on that movement as they feel a little bit better there than doing them with the neutral grip T-bar attachment. So that's a big win. Now I'm going to step you guys through my check-in photos. So I'll put the photo up here. I'm obviously going to be looking at my screen, but they're going to be right up here. We're going to start with this week's front double. Don't look at my posing too much here. My posing is not the best. I have a long way to go on my posing. The whole purpose of these is just check-in photos that I keep the same week over week so that we can look at me at a standard level. Nothing changes. The poses don't change. I'm not doing different lighting or different posing every week. It's the same spot, same poses, standard bodybuilding poses every single week. The only time this will change is when I move out to Vegas here in about a month and a half now, and I end up getting a new posing area. We're going to have hopefully a whole room that I can use for my posing. So that'll be nice. This first picture here, this is my front double. This looks really good this week. I'm really happy with this. Obviously you can see my right bicep looks to have a little bit of a discrepancy between my left bicep in this pose and also my right lat. You'll notice that I carry my right shoulder very high. This is something I'm actively trying to correct. You know, I have a tight trap on this right side, so stretching that out a little bit and then just trying to dip that shoulder actively is something I try to do. A key note or a key thing to note here is that I do not pose in front of a mirror when I do my check-in. The reason for it, at least in my mind, is I'm not going to have a mirror on a stage. So if I can perfect my posing or at least improve it without the mirror and then, you know, refer to the mirror when I need to for actual posing practice and prep, I'll be better off for it, right? So this has improved a lot from when I first started bodybuilding, and I'm pretty happy with this. Talking about the condition and this check-in in particular, really happy with how my condition's holding. You can see it through my legs. I feel like my legs have just added a ton of size already, even though like my quads are on the back burner. I'm doing like 7 sets of quad work a week. It's so minimal in terms of total volume, but they still feel like they're growing. I think part of that too is that my adductors have grown a lot as we are working in a lot of adductor work because they were a weak point before, which has added a lot of width to my leg overall. And then from the side, which we'll see in a second, my depth to my leg from the hamstring has greatly improved too. But overall, you'll see my condition is holding really well through the abdominals, through the upper body. Everything looks really good. I'm really happy with this. And the same can be said here for my back double. This was my favorite shot I took today. Obviously, you guys get to see my fat ass right now. I decided to hike up the shorts here for a better shot of the glutes because typically I keep them covered. But I want to expose them more in my check-ins just so that I have a better visual of body fat around that area. And also just glutes are part of the physique. They're going to be critiqued on stage. Everyone wants to see striated glutes, so there's a lot of focus on them. So I want to make sure that they are up to snuff, which is with as much hamstring bias work as we've been doing. My glutes have been getting a lot of just work passively because of, you know, RDLs, of even a lot of the lying or seated leg curls can sometimes involve glute. So there's a good bit there that's just being utilized as is. We don't have any dedicated glute training in place. Don't feel like we need it. But looking at my back here, I'm really happy with how my back has progressed. We've added a good bit of width. We're still working on adding some density to that mid back. That's probably my biggest area of improvement I need right now. But I am happy with how the width of my back is coming along. And I'm really happy with how my hamstrings are coming along as well. Big improvements there, improvements in my calves as well. Feeling pretty confident with this. Obviously, we have a long way to go, but seeing the improvements I'm seeing feels really good. Front lat spread here. Again, you'll notice that the big thing that always irks me and that, you know, I notice right away is my right shoulder being higher than my left, just because I don't depress that shoulder and lock the lat in as much. It's a little bit of a harder, it's just my biomechanics. I'm tighter on that side, so it's harder for me to lock that in. But despite that, again, condition is holding. I feel like this is looking really good. I'm really happy with my width from the front. I'm happy with how my waist looks here. Legs, very happy with those as well. So this is good. Side tricep. This is a hard shot for me just because I lack mobility in my shoulder. And I would prefer to do this on my left side, but which is the same as my side chest. But you'll see here I do it on my side, on my right side, because I can't like get my arm locked out on that left side properly to be able to rotate into this, and it makes my core look like shit. So I want to work on that. That's a point of improvement for me. You'll also see that, you know, even though I'm butchering it a little bit, I am hitting like a Dorian style side try here, where I'm not, you know, doing what you do in a side chest and keeping the front foot bent and then, or the back foot bent and then the front foot as well hiked up. I'm just stepping strong onto that dominant show foot, and then I'm kicking my non-dominant foot back to show the calf. I prefer this side try. I just like it more visually. And I also think it's easier to get into, especially with my mobility in the upper torso or the upper half of my body being a little bit challenged. So that's how I like to set up for it. I have a lot of improvements to make here for sure, but I'm pretty happy with how it looks. Again, the improvements here are big. I'm noticing that my triceps are starting to come up a bit more, which is good to see because again, probably one of my weaker areas in my upper body right now being my triceps, outside of my back, of course. And then here, you'll see what I mean when we switch to the other side for the side chest. One thing I need to do here is just get some more torso rotation, but I do feel pretty happy with this. I probably will adjust my camera angle a little bit this week. I try to set my camera at about waist height and point up, but I think this week, or next week rather, I'm gonna maybe play with that a little bit to kind of show a more true angle for this a little bit better. But if you look here, I'm really happy with my hamstrings in this shot. They have greatly improved over where they were. I know they're still not much, but they're way better than they were, which was pretty much non-existent. So I'm very happy with that. Glad to see them coming up. My chest, I feel like, is pretty good. I don't have any complaints with my chest and how I present that right now. Again, I think I just need to get some more rotation through that torso. And then here, my back lat spread, very happy with this shot. This was actually my favorite one of the day. Super, super, super happy with the width, super happy with how this feels. I finally figured out what feels good for, my leg positioning in my back lat spread and my back double as well, which is dropping that left leg back a little bit and kind of, almost pushing myself down into it. That feels really good for me. So I'm happy to have that dialed in. This feels solid. You'll notice here, my shoulder, I'm able to bring it back when I get in position for this. I'm able to actually bring that right shoulder down. And I think here I was over-correcting it a little bit. But honestly, in this case, you could even argue that I need to bring my left shoulder down and forward a little bit more too. But my point being, my right shoulder isn't hiked up here, which is good because again, that's something that I'm trying to actively work on. So it's an improvement. And then I think... yes, we have two more. So ab and thigh here. This is one of my favorite poses. I do feel like I have relatively solid abs. Obviously they're a little hidden right now. We are in the off season. I'm getting to that point where I'm starting to see some of the lines get a little softer and I'm like, ooh, and it's a mental thing, but overall still feeling really solid about these shots, still feeling really good with my condition. We still have a very long runway for growth. I mean, we probably have every bit of at least 12 more weeks, if not more, before we cut the growth phase into a deficit to kind of clean up a little bit. So yeah, 12 more weeks, pretty much. Obviously, we will evaluate that as we go, but right now condition is holding really well. Super happy with my ab and thigh and how this is coming along. I feel like adding some adductor has really filled out this shot a lot for me. I used to do this shot with both arms behind the head, but I found that sweeping that left arm down in front just looks better on me. So I've started to do that. I think it adds a little bit of an emphasis of a taper, more so than when I have both arms above my head. My waist is a little wider naturally. So I like how this looks. I'm happy with this shot. My condition feels good. Let's keep going. Last shot. This is my most muscular. This is probably, it's funny, my coach says this is probably his favorite shot of mine. I think it's my most hated shot of mine because I feel like my legs overpower this shot. We're not doing a lot for quads right now. Again, quads only have 7 sets per week, but they're still fucking growing. And I just feel like I need like 20% more upper body size to match my quads currently in this shot. At least in this shot. Part of that can also just be how I'm setting up for this. I think I might try maybe doing like a crab most muscular here, or I don't know, playing with the shot a little bit. I do like this. I do think it highlights my legs very well, which are a strong point for me right now, I think, but I would like to maybe mix this up and try some new stuff here. But that's going to be it for today's check-in pictures, guys. That's just kind of how I like to look at myself and review my own photos. Obviously, my coach has a process for that as well. But I really encourage you guys, even if you're not working with a coach, take check-in photos every week. Do a check-in yourself and look back, evaluate them, look at how your progress is going, watch yourself week over week. In the same way that you watch your training back so you can evaluate your training performance, look at your check-ins so you can evaluate your diet performance, your fatigue levels, how your posing is improving. All of those things are important within the context of bodybuilding. So if you're not already doing that, I really encourage you to do that. Make it a habit that you practice. Now guys, with the check-in done, that's really all I have for the day. So no training changes this week, no PED changes yet. Nothing really to note for this check-in as of yet, other than we're just gonna keep pushing. It's just another week coming up. So without further ado, I'm going to put the training footage up and hop into an overview of what this week's training looked like.